Dyson made a big splash recently with the release of their V10 Cyclone cordless vacuum. I'd been looking to upgrade my cordless for a while as the technology has improved a lot, so this is my initial review of the new V10. I bought this with my own money, and this review isn't funded or supported by Dyson in any way, alas, given that it was £500. In a surprisingly bold move, Dyson announced they were no longer developing new mains power vacuums, meaning no new models will ever be released, and only existing models will continue to be sold. Instead, they're focusing research and development efforts on a new form factor vacuum they feel is the future, now they've developed the technology sufficiently, and have demonstrated mains powered vacuum level cleaning performance using a handheld. From a technological perspective alone, this product is literally a quantum leap and so far beyond anything any competitor even approaches, and the cleaning performance this machine delivers under normal household use vastly surpasses other handhelds on the market, and compares with the current top tier upright, the Lightball. And the Lightball is famed for being able to achieve the highest holistic cleaning performance across all floor types of any upright vacuum, as measured by international industry standard tests. Unlike their first cordless stickvac, the DC35, the review of which can be found on my channel, the V10 isn't marketed for just quick pickups, and is now not only supposed to rival uprights, but replace them going forwards, and it will therefore be reviewed as such. It comes with a 2-year guarantee, which is 3 years shorter than the guarantee provided for the mains vacuums. It's not clear why this is, particularly as they're trying to convince people to permanently ditch the cord, but in fairness, I'm confident I can expect it to last for at least several years, given that the DC35 I have is still performing in as new condition, given that I've treated it well. The main unit has a big switch on top, which allows you to select between 3 power levels, Mode 1, 2 or 3, aka Max. Mode 2 is the default. Mode 1 is low, for use either on certain carpets, where normal is too tough to push, or where higher power is just not needed, to help be efficient with battery life. And Mode 3 is high for local patches of extreme mess, for example, a major spill of soil or something. The unit is really lightweight, it's only 2.68 kilograms, and much of that weight is positioned behind the hand, so you don't feel tired using it. Most other handhelds have their weight at the front, and are really tiring to use. The V10 is one of the easiest and least tiring of any other handheld I've tried. It's also really comfortable to hold due to the angular handle, which doesn't hurt the top of your hand and is really ergonomic. The trigger is a feather touch low resistance click trigger, so you don't have to grip it hard and don't get handache during extended periods of use. There's also a clever soft rubber pad on the back so you can rest it against a wall without it sliding or marking if you need to put it down to move something. The wall mount storage and charging dock, which is a great feature stemming back to their first cordless, easily mounts to a wall using 2 wall plugs and screws. It was easy to install and seems very robust. You slide the vacuum into the dock from the top, which essentially plugs it in and charges it. Lift it out and begin using it immediately without any cords to unwind or plug in. Just pick up and go, it's very convenient. My DC35 never came loose in all the years it was wall mounted. This machine is slightly heavier and drops in slightly harder, but we'll see whether there are any loosening issues longer term, but I'm not expecting any. There are also 2 clips at the bottom that you can use to store tools. The main reason why Dyson can now market this cordless as being a replacement for mains powered vacuums is because of their crazy powerful digital motor. They've made huge advancements in the science behind these motors, and there's loads of advanced tech involved. I've put a link in the description to a presentation which nicely discusses it all in lay terms, and also some links to their website promo material. There's literally no one else in the market producing digital motors that have anywhere near this level of technical advancement, and Dyson are in a complete league of their own, given that they've got about a decade of intense research head start. Some competitors are starting to bring out compact brushless motors, but they appear to be less powerful than even Dyson's version 1 model from back in 2009. Dyson literally have no technological competition, and why they're the only ones confident enough to kill off highly established product lines associated with mains powered units. In practice, this motor is great. It instantly blasts to full power as soon as you press the trigger, and quickly stops when you let go. This is in contrast to their very first handheld, which used a heavy conventional motor, and that took ages to spin up to full power, and ramped down to a halt in several seconds. They've really come a long way in the last decade, whilst the competition has stagnated in the past. The motor also sounds amazing, and just like the ray gun it looks like. When the motor stops, you get what they call the boing effect, caused by the magnets bouncing when the motor puts the brakes on the rotor. This is a 525 watt motor, which would put it into the highly energy efficient region in EU labels. A 700 watt motor gets an A rating, so this would approach the maximum A++. At its maximum, it can produce as much suction as their mains power cleaners, as measured by the international industry standard tests. It's also only 125 grams, giving it an insanely high power density, or power to weight ratio, of 4.2 kilowatts per kilogram, which is maybe 20 times better than a conventional mains cleaner. It's also really quiet considering its power and how fast it spins. They've got all kinds of soundproofing in there, with even extra baffling at the back face to mute line of sight noise. You can hear the difference too. When you move it to the side, it's louder than when you hold it in front of you, which is pretty clever. Their other major technical advancement is the power source, i.e. the battery. They're using the latest lithium-ion battery technology available at the moment. It's got a huge battery that offers more capacity than their previous generation, but it's still very light. It's also got a much improved charge time. A full charge takes 3.5 hours, but this isn't really relevant in normal use, because you use it for a bit, put it on the wall to charge, use it a bit, charge, and so on. And you don't ever really need to wait 3.5 hours. It's just always ready to go in general. Another great thing about their handhelds is how they use the battery power. Most battery products start well, but fade in performance as the battery runs out of charge, which in vacuums ends up killing the suction and wasting the user's time as they struggle to pick things up. As this battery loses charge during use and its voltage drops, they increase the current to keep the power output constant. This means you get maximum power and consistent performance for as long as possible before the battery is fully drained and it suddenly stops. So there's no performance fade during use. There's 3 lights indicating battery level, so you always know how much you've got left. Mode 1 gives 30 minutes of runtime with a power head attached, or 60 minutes without. Mode 2 correspondingly gives 20 minutes and 40 minutes. And Mode 3 gives 6 minutes, and is only necessary for extreme messes, as I'll discuss later. The only on when pressed trigger concept is far better than being on all the time. If you move to somewhere else, you can let go of the trigger and then carry on, because the motor is instant start and stop. They've shown this saves about 30% on battery charge, and thus the available cleaning time. You just need to learn to use it in an on-off way as you use it around the home. Another reason for not having it on all the time is that batteries get hot if drained continuously. Being on-off allows it to cool, and this extends its longer-term service lifetime. So all the third-party clips that you can buy to force the trigger to be on all the time work against the user in so many ways and strips out so many great designed advantages. If you just learn to make minor adjustments to how you vacuum relative to the old ways of the past, when the power was always on, you can take advantage of the benefits of this new form factor. It's easy to learn, it just takes a bit of practice to break all habits. When it's charging on the wall, you get lights to show how full it is, so you can always see the battery level, whether it's charging or when you're using it. Longer term, the battery is expected to still hold 80% of its original maximum charge after 15 years, which is a really long time. Some cordless vacuums only retain this level of maximum battery capacity for just 5 years. It's worth noting that there are huge advancements expected in battery technology across the world in all devices in the next decade, as scientific research interest has undergone a renaissance. Battery capacity and recharge time will improve enormously. They've rotated the Cyclone assembly around relative to their previous cleaners, so it's all in line. There are 14 high-efficiency cyclones arranged symmetrically about the central axis, which was shown to increase airflow efficiency. Airflow is also now a simple linear path from front to back. The cyclones spin the air so fast that particles experience 79,000 Gs, i.e. they get 79,000 times heavier, allowing separation of even tiny light dust particles. Dyson now claim these cyclones can remove particles down to 300 nanometers, which is near in HEPA grade. However, this is probably only for max mode when spinning the fastest, and so filters are still needed. They've improved the filters a lot on this model, and they're much easier to rinse. There's in fact only a single filter unit to wash now, because it combines the pre- and post-motor filter into a single twist-off end cap. Air comes from the cyclones into the pre-motor filter from the outside edge, through the motor, and then out of the HEPA post-motor filter at the back. The whole unit is sealed, properly filtering out 99.97% of particles larger than about 300 nanometers, which makes the expelled air cleaner than the normal ambient air you breathe. Unlike most bagless technology, the cyclones here are so efficient at filtering dirt from the air that hardly any builds up on the filters, even compared to most bagless mains powered machines, so there's no loss of suction during use. The Cyclone Efficiency is dependent on the airspeed, and thus the mode used. Mode 1 will cause the filter to dust up slightly more quickly, but this will not really be noticeable. In future, it's possible Dyson may be able to improve separation efficiency further, possibly by introducing their kinetic technology and eliminating the need for filter maintenance at all. They suggest the filters rinsed monthly. As with most Dyson tech, while there's no obvious visual need to do this under normal circumstances, and they seem perfectly clean, it's probably suggested either to encourage regular checking and to ensure it remains biologically clean, so no smells. It's like not washing your clothes for a long time. They might still be fairly free of obvious dirt, but they can start to smell because of the microbiological dirt and bacteria on there. They made it really easy to take out, just twist and pull out. You rinse by filling with water and shaking with your hand over it to slosh the water inside. And you do this a few times and then let it air dry for a day. The machine doesn't actually work without the filter connected. Other than this, there's very little maintenance necessary to keep this cleaner performing. The bin is apparently 40% bigger than the previous handheld. People complained about the bin being too small previously, but I've also seen people complain that it can be too bulky, so Dyson can't win no matter what they do. Nevertheless, this bin is huge and takes a while to reach the max fill line. What's great is how it handles and captures dust. When active, lighter dust generally stays beneath the black rubber skirt, which also helps keep it in the lower portion of the bin if tipped back when cleaning up high. There's an inner and outer fin at the back of the bin to help eventually grab and compact the dust into a fixed position, maximising bin space. They super streamline the emptying process as well, and it's literally the easiest thing ever now. It's also the reason why they say you shouldn't worry about the bin capacity. It still takes a while to fill, and it's just super easy to empty. It's also better practice to empty more frequently, for example after every use, to avoid odour build-up and to minimise the chance of splashing when dumping a large amount of fine dust. To empty, you do what they call point and shoot, so just put the machine deep into the bin, push the red catch which slides the bin down, then the trapdoor opens upwards and everything falls out. Then you can close the lid and slide it back up until it clicks. You never come into contact with any dirt as long as you have basic care. To make sure dust doesn't splash and make a cloud when it drops out to the bottom, just put it deep into the bin near where it'll land. Literally that simple. It's so quick and clean to empty, it takes about 3 seconds once you've practiced a few times. When it slides down, it also scrapes the shroud, automatically cleaning it for you. If this shroud becomes completely blocked after accreting fine dust, which takes a long time, it can restrict airflow and prevent the cyclones from working, flooding the filters with dirt that gets through, or even causing failure if the machine has been badly neglected and uncared for. So just empty frequently. The thin black rubber skirt also folds like a concertina as the scraper presses into it. This not only prevents damage, but also squeezes off any fine dust stuck under it. You can take the bin off by pressing the catch if needed and sliding it all the way down. While not necessary at all to keep the machine working correctly, you can use a dry dusting cloth to polish up the insides of the bin and assembly if you want to. Don't use a brush because that just flicks dust into the air, which is the last place you want it. The bin should never be washed and water should never be used. It takes just a minute to wipe and slide back on. Another good improvement is that because of how the bin opens, it's very unlikely that any dirt will get on the open ring of the trapdoor. So when it's closed, the bottom remains dirt-free. And because of the new air path, if any dirt on there did get sucked up into the machine, the first stop is the bin anyway, rather than the filter, or like in the past mains cleaners. So these are nice improvements. The whole system has a simple linear airflow from bottom to top, with no bends, which makes it far more efficient and best uses the available airflow. Now, air flows in from the base of the bin and up the centre. It travels through into the bin and first main cyclone, where most dirt, especially the large stuff you can see, is spun out and captured in the bin. Air then travels through the chemically etched metal fine mesh solid shroud and onto the high G-force cyclones. Only really tiny particles, a few tens of microns in size, can get through the shroud because the holes are so small. In the upper, smaller cyclones, the fine particles are spun and accelerated out of the air and drop out of the bottom of the cones and back into a separate central chamber of the bin ready for the next emptying. It can sometimes be worth giving the machine a tap when the bin is open to ensure they fall out of the slit you can see here. This dust is really ultra fine and contains particles as small as 300 nanometers. As such, they electrostatically aggregate into clumps of dust snowflakes and can coat the inside of the central tube. This isn't a problem, and these particles are not a major source of odours. The main smelly stuff is in the main section of the bin, so empty frequently to prevent odour buildup. This is a huge advantage over bags, which are expensive, and most people don't replace them as often as a result until they're full, so they can stink and need freshener perfumes to mask the smell. The rest of the mostly particle-free air then escapes out of the top of the cyclones and heads through the premotor filter. It goes over the outer edge and through to the inner region. Then it passes sufficiently clean through the digital motor. For maximum health, the air coming out of the motor passes through the pleated HEPA filter, where 99.97% of particles greater than 300 nanometers are removed, leaving it cleaner than the air you typically breathe. The V10 comes with two main floor heads, the direct drive head for carpets and most hard floor tasks, and a soft roller fluffy head for hard floors and large particles. Everywhere but the US and Canada get the V8's direct drive head. This has the new wider diameter brush bar design, which cleans better. It has solid spiral bristles rather than the old spokey design. It also has no rug strip lines and gives full width uniform cleaning and grooming. The dimensions of various features are shown in this image. There's a spiral of stiff nylon bristles to remove surface dust and flex fibres to release dirt into the airflow. And there's also a spiral of carbon fibre bristles to remove static and clean fine dust. These are angled so they sweep and minimise bending, which could increase wear. There are also several small channels at the front for slightly large particles like rice, but not cereal sized. The brush bar is directly driven by the motor housed within the bar, so there are no belts, which can fail and also leave unswept lines. When you turn the brush bar by hand, you can feel it clug. This causes an optimal level of vibration, which is channeled into the carpet to help dislodge sand and salt-like particles that respond better to impulse and bring them to the surface. It's a really clever way of providing vibrational agitation. To take the brush bar out to be deheard if needed, they say you need a coin, but you can actually twist the end cap with your fingers because it's so large. The head turns nicely on the V-ball, but I found it can be hard to push up rug edges because the ball is much smaller relative to a traditional upright, which better rolls over small steps. I think this is something that could be improved in a future version. In the US and Canada, the V10 was released with a newly developed torque drive cleaner head, which improved front channel large debris pickup by giving size control over front channels, much like the head on the Dyson Lightball upright vacuum, albeit with 3 gate heights as shown by some US video reviews. It's disappointing that this seemingly more advanced head was only released with the otherwise global rollout of the V10 in a small number of geographical locations. No explanation was given for this by Dyson, and you can't help but feel a bit neglected. Nevertheless, the direct drive cleaner head supplied is a good performer, and the fluffy head can provide similar large debris pickup, so it's not a complete disaster. The fluffy head has dimensions as shown in this figure. It's got a wide velvet soft felt brush bar which seals to the floor and has a high front edge, allowing large particles to get gripped and dragged in. It's also got solid spiral rows of black short hair carbon fibre bristles to eliminate static cling and remove all the dust. This head solves the snow ploughing effect, and since then many manufacturers, such as Shark, have made cheap copycat clones of the idea, but which aren't as effective or have some drawbacks and poorly thought out consequences. It has an articulating neck and drives a bit differently to the direct drive head. It takes a bit of getting used to, but actually offers really high levels of manoeuvrability and of a nature that is nicely suited to hard floor cleaning. It is an excellent tool. There's 2 designs of this fluffy head, and this is the version with a freely rotating back roller, which can roll over some particles on the back pull so they can be captured into the airflow. One minor criticism I have with this head is that it lacks thin velvet strips on the edges, and thus the plastic sides can grip hard on hard floors where silicone has been used. While you can take the roller out and wash in soapy water, it's generally easy to clean with a very lightly damp microfiber cloth that's been soaked in water with a bit of washing up liquid rather than to saturate it, and this eliminates any drying time. There are 3 different models of the V10, and each come with different tools and heads. The Total Clean version I bought doesn't come with a dusting brush for some reason that makes no sense, so it's hardly total clean. The tools are released to fit into the holes without looking, and seemingly slide in almost automatically despite being keyed to avoid putting it in the wrong way. They all have the quick release feature, so you can press and remove the tool in a single action, because the button is on the tool rather than the machine, like with the old designs. In fact, apparently, all V8 tools fit the V10. All tools can fit into the main unit directly, or on the end of the wand. The combination tool has a scoop orifice and a sliding brush which clicks into position. The brush should only be used for dust. Anything larger like crumbs, and you should use it without the brush, otherwise the bristles will flick the particles everywhere. The crevice tool is a good length and has side bleed holes to prevent clamping if the main orifice becomes blocked. The mini turbine head has dimensions as shown in the image. It has solid spiral tough nylon bristles which really beat the surface. There's no excellent tangle-free tool option yet for handhelds, but perhaps this will come in a future version. The articulating sole plate pivots to the angle that you're holding it to the surface, so it's always in perfect contact. Strong agitating vibration occurs as the brush strips strike the surface, and it's really powerful and effective at cleaning hair off upholstery or doing the stairs. In fact, cleaning the stairs with a handheld is much easier than using the mains powered machine. There's no hose pullback, and it's far more liberating. The mattress tool is like a wide upholstery tool and makes vacuuming that fine white dust out of mattresses much easier. The up top tool I've never owned before, but is actually really handy. It can even open straight to extend the crevice tool length if needed. The extension hose is really handy if you vacuum in awkward places. It extends the front reach by about half a metre and allows two-handed cleaning. The neck of the extension hose freely rotates now, which is a really nice new feature and prevents the twisting that occurs when you stretch out a coiled hose. According to international industry standard tests, all vacuums are tested moving at half a metre per second, and this is the speed you're expected to groom your carpet when moving the cleaner. It's much less tiring if you vacuum at this speed. Just push gently and don't overexert, and let the head do the driving and hard work for you. If you vacuum at this speed, the brush bar properly grooms and lifts the pile, even in mode 1. I can't perform industry standard tests, but I can show some visual demos. This test puts a fine sprinkling of self-raising flour on a flat hard floor surface to look at how fine dust is removed in all power modes with both floor heads, and you can see you get a spotless result each time. This test looks at pickup of larger particles, like seeds and rice, for both heads, using mode 1 with the minimum suction. This amount of mess is far more than you'd ever encounter in normal use. You get another spotless result each time for the direct drive head, except for some of the very large particles, which are larger than the small gaps and can't get in. Left, right and front edge cleaning in just low power mode is shown here for the direct drive head, which gets perfect results in all cases. On carpet, it cleaned right up to the left and right edge in mode 1, and only particles that were sunk in the corner were missed, but these are easily picked up with the crevice tool. Front edge cleaning left a slightly larger gap, but again the crevice tool suffices. Large carpet messes are cleaned up well in all modes, but max mode, which is intended for such situations, perform particularly well. On hard floors, the fluffy head captures all particles in all three modes comparably well. The edge and front pickup is near perfect. It's also capable of collecting much larger particles, like cereal. Cleaning upholstery with the mini turbine tool is really easy, and it sucks very strongly, even in mode 1. Similarly, stairs are much easier to clean with a mini turbine head relative to a mains power cleaner. Many people most likely won't believe that a cordless cleaner could ever replace a mains powered one, because they think it just isn't as powerful and judge performance by motor power numbers alone. These new Quantum Leap digital motors are now as powerful as ultra energy efficient mains driven motors and produce as much suction. I did a really striking test which shows this. After cleaning the entire carpet in the default mode 2 with the V10, extracting lots of dirt typical of a weekly clean, I went over it again with a more powerful mains vacuum. This was the Dyson Lightball, which has the highest cleaning performance on average across all floor types of any upright vacuum, according to industry standard tests. I'd completely cleaned the bin out, and I managed to extract only a tiny amount of dirt more, which was mostly the carpet fibres the brush bar rips out. You'll always extract dirt with every pass due to the statistical nature of particle removal from complex fibre networks. But I repeated this again with the V10 immediately after using the light ball and got a similarly tiny residual amount. So given that the V10, in just normal mode, finds just as little residual dirt as the highest holistically performing mains upright, shows that it can replace an upright. The suction levels in normal mode, combined with all the clever engineering that the direct drive head uses to maximise the utility of that available suction, extracts the maximum amount of dirt from a normally soiled, home representative carpet. That is amazing and solidifies to me that Dyson are right to claim cordless is the future and that mains can be consigned to the past. This vacuum performs in its normal mode under normal real-world household conditions just as well as a leading mains vacuum for ordinary mess levels you'd find in the home. In summary, unlike the first generation of Dyson's cordless stick vacuums and those before this one, the V10 is absolutely a full suitable replacement for a mains vacuum. The bin capacity is a non-issue, as is the battery life for the most part. I can do my whole house on a single charge with a smart use of the on-off trigger and selection of the right mode. If people have large homes, it's easy to split cleaning into more than one shorter cleaning session too, which is often less tiring than a single large effort mega clean. The new cordless form factor Dyson are pioneering brings new opportunity to improve traditional usage and workflow, and to re-evaluate optimal vacuum in practice. Shorter, more frequent, easier cleans. People are already doubtful and claiming a cordless cleaner isn't an adequate replacement for mains. While true for most underperforming brands out there, it's not the case for this beast of a cleaner. Such naysayers almost certainly won't provide well-conducted, representative and thus convincing tests to show this isn't a suitable replacement. They just doubt it without any evidence. Some will no doubt conduct absurdly unrealistic tests on YouTube, or misleading excessive mess tests, and other tests that don't represent the normal household usage it was designed and tuned for, and then draw misleading conclusions. So watch out for the inevitable propaganda and nonsense. The concept of a deep clean is misleading in many ways, as will be covered in a future video. Nevertheless, this vacuum deep cleans a normal household mess very well, in the realistic sense of the term. It cleans so well in fact, that in immediate subsequent re-cleans, a good mains vacuum finds no more residual dirt than the V10 in normal mode. The V10 has a 2-year guarantee, but my old Dyson cordless is 6 years old and is as healthy today as it was on day one, so I expect this machine to last for 10 to 15 years, much like their old mains machines. It's expensive, but unlike similarly priced cheap knockoffs that perform measurably less well, it's an exceptional, pioneering, industry-leading product that does exactly what it says on the tin and gives you exactly what you're paying for. It has no running costs, or replacement bags or filters to buy, and so may work out cheaper in the longer term than many other cleaners. It's a unique product that's setting future trends, leading where few will be able to follow for many years, if ever. So if you can afford it and want a piece of the future, it starts here. I doubt I'll ever use a mains powered vacuum again now, and that includes my much liked Dyson Lightball.